The sheriff disappeared. He drove in a doomed Corvette.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight On. I'm your host, Lawrence Purrier. Spotlight On is brought to you by Light, the technology platform reimagining e-commerce for live events. You can learn more about Light at light.com/partnerships. That's LYTE.com/partnerships. Today's talk is a fun one. The spotlight is on James Felice of the Felice Brothers, a strictly top-shelf band from upstate New York. Their new album, From Dreams to Dust, is set for release on September 17th. James and I chopped it up about music, rural New York, and a whole lot more. We got to the point where I decided I want to be a Felice brother when I grow up. Enjoy our talk.
Hello.
James.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I am good. Can you see me and everything? Am I doing
can.
this right?
You look tough, man. You look tough today.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready for a fight, you know? I always come in every podcast ready to, kick ass if I have to.
I barely finished my first cup of coffee, so go easy on me.
No problem.
How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Where are we speaking to you from?
This is my home in Kingston, New York.
Oh, lovely. Lovely.
Yeah.
So I'm just south of Seattle right now.
All right.
But oddly enough, and it's something I'm hoping I can talk to you about, I know your neck of the woods pretty well.
Oh, yeah?
I grew up in Connecticut and then spent about 20 years in New York, but used to go camping up in the Catskills area quite a bit. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Whereabouts?
Well, the last place I went before I moved out here was North South Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, that piece of land where the mountain house was, man, is so ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. I haven't been up there since I was a kid. I spent a lot of my life growing up like a little bit south of the Catskills in the Shawangunk Mountains. My older brothers lived in the Catskills, and when I was like 7 or 8, we moved to the different mountains in New York because I don't know why. But yeah, I remember going to north south like all the time when I was a kid. It's so beautiful. We used to rent paddle boats, I think.
Yeah.
Zoom around there.
Yeah. That last trip that we went, I took my son who was around, 11 at the time, and we went with a friend of his. And, this is just indicative of what a bad person I am. It was nightfall and they were hanging out by the fire. And I said, I gotta, run over to the bathroom. And of course I waited till it got really quiet and I snuck down and hid behind the car and started making noises and enjoyed watching them freak out for a good 20 minutes.
Lucky you didn't get shot.
Or get eaten by a bear up there.
Or get eaten by a bear. Yeah.
But one last anecdote about that trip. So we went for a walk one of the nights, or went for a hike around nightfall. And we actually got turned around and I had to pretend to not be nervous because I've got 2 little kids who are like, are we taking the long way back? How do we get back? And we stumbled across, it was a half dozen. I could only, they were somewhere on the spectrum between like Manson family and like members of the Polyphonic Spree. And it was like a half dozen or so hippie kids in like just sitting in the middle of the woods. With guitars, like, I don't know. It was probably completely innocuous, but in the context of like anxiety around getting back to the campground, it was was
I
trippy
there?
as hell. Yeah, it might have been you.
Might have been me.
Did you go through a phase where you wore like white gauze dresses, maybe?
Actually, certainly not yet. I'm looking forward to doing something like that when I get a little older.
So, tell me about growing up out that way, though. I mean, so if I understand correctly, the town where you grew up, at least in the earlier part of your life, you mentioned your older brothers were there maybe a little longer, has like a pretty significant art background and interesting background.
Yeah, and I don't want to get this wrong because I'm not a historian of the area, but yeah. So my older brothers grew up in Palinville, which is near Catskill. And I know that there was the Hudson River School of Art and the Catskill School of Art. And my brother Ian is like, he loves painting. He's a painter and he's like an art historian. He knows everything about it. So he would be the better person to talk to about that particular question. But besides artists, there's so many musicians that came up there, especially in the 50s and 60s. And there was also comedians, right? It was like the Catskills circuit. It was like Jewish comedians would come up from the city.
Carrot Top. And
of course, Carrot Top, we all love very much.
That historic Jewish comedian of the Catskill scene.
Was he up there?
Yeah, exactly. It was Jesske Green, Don Rickles, and Carrot Top.
Wow, the big three.
Big three. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. So always interesting musicians and artists in that area, people you wouldn't necessarily expect to see. Mostly because, they kind of came up from the city and realized how beautiful and close it was and sort of settled down. Someone never went back. So it's a lot of great music was produced there and art over the years.
Do you know how your folks wound up there?
Well, my pops came up. He grew up in Queens, and he came up in '69 for Woodstock, the festival. I think that was '69, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So him and his best friend John Karsh came up from Queens. They were 17, and they went to Woodstock, and I don't think they ever went back.
They bought a one-way ticket.
They basically bought a one-way ticket, and I think they went full-blown hippie. They live in the woods, in a cabin without any power. They both met girls who are, John Carter's still married to his. He met him, when they were 17, and my father was with Pat, and he had 3 kids with her. So yeah, they just stayed up there, and then my mom came up. She's a little younger than my dad in the 80s, I guess, to work. So she grew up in Long Island.
Wow, it's such an interesting area too. The other thing that when I was doing my background on you guys was that it's the hometown of Rip Van Winkle.
That's right, the hometown of Rip Van Winkle. We have a bridge named after the guy. The Rip Van Winkle Bridge brings you from Catskill across to by Hudson.
Yeah, is there is there Rip Van Winkle shtick up there, or
there is? Yeah, there's 100% Rip Van Winkle shtick. I got to read the story again, because when I first, I'd always, grow up Rip Van Winkle, this and that. I thought it was some cool story, but it's just about a guy that falls asleep and he wakes up and then he's old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think
I was disappointed.
Thing is he missed the revolution. I think that was the big thing. He missed the revolution.
Okay. So he had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was the Dutchman that did it to him. They gave him some kind of weird, he drank the Dutchman's liquor. And I need to know what the Dutchman's liquor is a metaphor for.
I've been looking for it my whole life, man.
Like a little pint of the Dutchman's liquor. Just a little nipper.
Just a little sniff.
I don't need to go to sleep for 20 years, but a nice long weekend.
He missed the revolution. I really should read that story again. It's been so long. Okay, that makes sense. That's why it's interesting. Yeah. It's Washington Irving, right?
Yeah. Right. Yep. What did your parents do, or what did you grow up in? Were they art inflected? How did being up there inform you guys?
My parents are not even remotely art inflected. My father's a carpenter, and my mother is. She was like a stay-at-home mom for most of my childhood, and then she became like a school bus driver when most of the kids were out of the house. Both lovely, incredible people, just hardworking. Neither of them really. My mother never graduated high school. My father, no one ever went to college. And just sort of working class people, and sort of grew up in that environment in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Pretty interesting. And then I was actually homeschooled by my mom for a lot of my childhood, which was also fascinating and weird.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like when I was growing up, the homeschool kids, those were definitely weird kids. Now it seems a bit more mainstream, or at least more common.
I feel good that whenever I tell somebody I was homeschooled, they're surprised. So that means that I'm doing something right. I don't want to say I was homeschooled, and somebody oh yeah, that makes sense. I think hopefully.
That contextualizes your ignorance.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you're such a freak.
Yeah, that's fair. That I can understand that. Why you'd feel that way. Do you think that do you think that the given how the region's changed, and it seemed like there's been sort of the migration of the city folk into the Hudson Valley and into the Catskills, is that lifestyle, or is the world your parents raised their family in, is it still possible to do that?
That's something that I think about a lot, actually. and it's accelerated so much during the pandemic to an almost like feels almost like cataclysmic for the area in a way. House prices have gone up. So I don't own a home. I've been saving to buy a home my whole life, and now I don't really think I can afford one again, which is super annoying and discouraging. But I don't know, actually. Certainly there's pockets of the Hudson Valley that no city person wants to go to because there's not enough good coffee in the radius. But that's all changing every day. Something new and delicious opens up somewhere, and then or a club or antique store or something, and it draws this city money that seems to have, it just seems like an infinite supply of people with a lot of cash who can buy a house without really worrying about it, that it's 20% overpriced, or that it needs a new roof or this and that, which is really intimidating and it's kind of scary for me and for a lot of my friends that grew up here and my family and stuff. But at the same time, I bet you moan about it all the time, but at the same time, like, it does bring culture and interesting people to the area, and it's something that's always happened to the Hudson Valley and anywhere where you're within X number of hours drive from a big city. But there's no bigger city than New York, and there's no more wealthier place in the world than New York. So the Hudson River, the arm that extends through the Hudson Valley, sort of draws all this. It's just this people, man. It's hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, and they want to get the hell out of the city.
Yeah. It's like instead of laying down $1 for a cup of coffee and getting change, you got to like save up to that $6 cup of coffee.
It ain't cheap. But I'm at the same time, I'm like a foodie. I love good food. I love a good cup of coffee. I love like a nice cocktail. And none of that, you couldn't get any of that, around here like 15 years ago. But now you can easily. And I love that. So of course it's some good stuff and some bad stuff. I just feel bad for the people that grew. I live in Kingston, which is like a small city, really beautiful place that was mostly very poor and empty for my whole childhood. We would just come here to go to the mall, and now all these buildings are being bought by like billionaire investors from the city, and they're kicking, they're raising rents and kicking people out, and that's honestly like despicable behavior. But then there's just people that want to, start a family up here. They don't want to deal with the hustle and bustle of the city, which is fine. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a lot. I think about it a lot because it really bothers me sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
I can stew in it. Yeah.
Well, I'll try not to dwell on it too much, but other than having your roots in the region, are you currently rooted in like a scene of musicians and other artists? Like, is that a part of why you're still there?
In a sense, yeah, there's some amazing artists around here. I never lived anywhere else but here in my whole life. Basically, I've lived in like many different towns, but I basically lived like within an hour of where I grew up my entire life. I've traveled a lot. I think because of my family, I've stayed here. I have 6 brothers and sisters, and we all sort of live in the area. And my parents and my grandmother, who passed away a couple years ago, but she lived in the area, and we were very close. So yeah, I just never wanted to leave, and I made so many great friends over the years. I love the feeling of having like a home and like walking down the street and seeing people I've known for 15 years, and I love that feeling so much. So yeah, I think so. And there are amazing musicians here. I'm a little more insulated, especially obviously since COVID. One of my main goals next year, when things loosen up, is to be out in the musical community more, because I do sometimes feel separated from it.
Yeah. How did you guys go about making the new record in the context of COVID? Were you and Ian like in a pod together, or like did you use technology? How did that?
We were in a pod together. I had got COVID like right at the beginning of the pandemic, like in March. I'm sorry. That's okay. I was fine. My girlfriend and I got it, and it sucked a lot, but we were
between
fine.
That and the homeschooling, it explains a lot.
Right? Sorry, he's a weirdo. I'm sorry to your audience for being such a strange bird. So Ian lives in a little town in the middle of nowhere, sort of by Hudson, New York, if anybody knows where that is. And he has a church. There's literally a church on his property that was built in like 1870. And he didn't actually own the church, but it was like on his property. Eventually, after years and years, he finally got control of it because no one was using it. And we made a little studio in there. Really cool. So it was just me and him and his wife and his like 3-year-old son. We would just work together every day. And then we got the whole band together for like 4 days. We all took like COVID tests and we potted up and we actually were able to record a whole band together. And that was all in October, I think. And that was like the highlight of my pandemic experience for sure.
Yeah. So did the, I'm sort of interested in process a little bit. So did the whole record come together in those 4 days, or do you pull the band together, get what you need out of them, and then you guys do a bunch of post or adding stuff? Like, how does that work?
For this one, it was unusual because of the circumstances. We actually spent a couple weeks before the band showed up and recorded a bunch of songs, just me and him. Mm-hmm. You know, using a drum machine, using plugins, just like kind of getting creative and getting weird. And then we were like, okay, the band's going to come in for these days, God willing. And it actually worked out. So then we sort of recorded, I think like 8 or 9 or 10 songs in those 4 days. And so the record is sort of a combination of just me and Ian with some overdubs by some of the other members of the band and song cut with the whole band together, by half and half. And that was the process. Ian wrote a bunch of songs. I wrote a bunch of songs for the first, over the spring and summer, and then we came together and tried to work them out, and then the band came in. And then after the band was done, a couple more overdubs. I like to sing a bunch of harmonies, take my time, scream in a room by myself into a mic, and that was it. Yeah.
And how do the songwriting duties generally fall? Like, do you each come in with fully formed songs and then sprinkle a little bit of yourselves on it, or like is one of you just music and the other lyrics and melody? Like, what's the insight there?
It's usually we come in with like songs that are 70% there, or sometimes more. Ian is like a prolific songwriter who is incredibly skilled. So sometimes he just comes in with a song that's perfect, that's done, and I'm like, okay, I'll be back here and record it and like play a little piano. This song is done. Sometimes, songs are half formed. We work them out with the band or with me and him, and then I write some songs. I'm way slower and not as good as him, so he usually helps me out a lot with lyrical stuff, particularly. And I guess I'm more music, he's more lyrics, but we both do both. But he's just a machine. He just writes these, I think, just such beautiful, interesting lyrics, and I'm just happy just to sit there and listen to him sing, and record it.
I wanted to ask you about some of the lyrics. Like, part of it, I think, is the family relationship that I think I was sensing, but the other is like for me as a listener, there's times where I laugh out loud. Like I was in the car this morning, and I had just some of the tracks on random, and I just laughed. and like, do you ever hear the lyrics for the first time, or pick up the lyric sheet and just like, dude, come on, man?
Yo, yeah, all the time. Usually he sends demos, and I'm cracking up. And I love humor in music. I think it's such a beautiful thing, and if you do it right, it's transcendent. Some of my favorite songwriters, I feel like, like John Prine, for instance. It just really make you laugh. And it's not just like because it's absurd or a parody of itself, but it's funny in the context of the universe of the song. It's like a really well-written comedy or something. I love that. It's not easy to do, and Ian does it pretty damn well.
Yeah, actually, I thank you for saying John Prine, because that was that should have been more immediately obvious to me, but that's a great example of what's going on there with some of those songs. Yeah, he's I think definitely my biggest influence, and one of Ian's too, for sure. How much of the lyrics are true? Like I'll give you a more specific example, because that seems like, in a catalog as vast as yours is growing to be. How much of Silverfish is like, how many of those things happened?
All right, so that one, I wrote that one, and that is like 90% true.
Like, who's this guy sending memes to your girl? I'm gonna go smack him.
Said. That was a true thing that definitely happened. She was like getting memes on her phone. I was trying to write the song, and I was like, what the fuck send you memes? And
I'm working
here. Yeah, I think it's all true. My mom feeds raccoons, live on. That one's true. Yeah, that one is actually like basically a true story about how I don't know, how powerless and pathetic sometimes you feel in the face of the world and of nature and just events. And Yeah. That's a true story. I'm sorry to say.
Did you ever decide what it is that you have to do? You know, you're bemoaning the fact that you got to do something. And I'm wondering, like, what's he going to do, man? Like, the mice are in the car. All you're going to do is, like, you could abandon the car. Like, that's what I would do.
Right. It's always, I had to kill the mice, and that sucked. But I think that's the question of the song. It's like, I'm always walking around being like, I have to do something, whether it's, destroy a hornet's nest that's threatening my my family, or getting a job, or just being productive every day, every second of my life. And I think a lot of people say, I was like, I have to do something. And I'm also thinking that when I'm like scrolling on my phone, like scrolling through Instagram, like I have to do something. Of course, I'm just scrolling. But there's a part of my brain's like, buddy, put this fucking phone down. You have to do something. So that's kind of what the song's about.
So your conception of I've got to do something is like, it's like the spectrum of like, I should be doing something productive, or I've got a list of things I should be doing something, or like existentially, like I got to do something, like things are fucked up. Like,
I think it's all those things. And in the original concept, it's also like every time you do something, you wind up killing something, which was sort of my original concept. There's this story my mom read to me when I was a kid. I was homeschooled, so maybe she made it up. It's called King Beetle Tamer.
I don't know. This might be an original.
This might be original, but it's a great story. It's like a king. He gets kicked out of his kingdom for some reason, and he has to sleep in the grass. But before he lays down in the grass, he stomps his foot to make sure all the insects know he's laying down, so he doesn't crush them. And I took that when I was a kid. I was like, oh my God, every time like I walk through the woods, and I live in the woods, I'm crushing something. And you look down at your footsteps and you see like destroyed trees or crushed insects or whatever is trying to form there. And, footsteps, obviously metaphor for everything I do in my life. I spend a lot of time in the woods working on doing tree work, cutting down trees. And I'm definitely killing shit when I do that. Knocking down a 70-foot tall tree. Usually they're dead, but imagine all the insects that live in a tree like that, and birds, and it falls on the ground like a bomb, and it's just so much destruction for $30 an hour. That's good pay. So yeah, that's all the things that sort of went through my head when I was writing that song.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I'm rereading for the first time in a very long time the book of interviews between Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell. Where they talked about the book is The Power of Myth, and several times throughout the book, I don't remember this theme from reading it years ago, but Joseph Campbell keeps talking about like the great tragedy of life is that life lives off of other lives, and like you cannot escape that. And it's not just that we're killing animals and killing the environment. Like the vegetarian doesn't get off any easier. Like the plant's alive, and there's nothing you can do to stay alive without taking life.
And even plants who get their life energy mostly from the sun are constantly displacing other plants, releasing pesticides and herbicides to defend themselves against other plants, killing other plants every step of the way. Of course, start thinking about bacteria. Every time you use, alcohol to wash your hands, you're obviously eliminating life. It's a strange feeling. And, I spent a lot of time photographing insects. It's like my weird hobby, another weird thing about me, homeschooler. So I'm always looking around, looking at these creatures, and they're just always tearing at each other. It's nonstop. At any given moment on this planet, there's just billions of living things eating or killing billions of other living things. It's a churn that's been going on since the dawn of time. It's just basically how it's the mechanics of evolution and life itself. So it's an inescapable fact, and it's kind of horrifying if you think about it too much. But I think about it all the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean that's that. So to try to put maybe a slightly hopeful cherry on that, what Campbell's point was is that a lot of the ritual that was developed, especially early on, for people to make sense and be able to actually cope with the fact that they had to be in this constant state of killing. A lot of the ritual was just around gratitude. Like there's really not much more you could do to inure yourself to the fact that you're this killing machine, except to express constant gratitude for the things that are giving themselves up for you.
Right. Right.
So.
Thank God I'm the lion.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank God, thank you for the antelope, of course. Yeah, right. And now, I try to remember that when I go to the supermarket. Thank you for this piece of chicken. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, chicken. Like, thank you.
Thank you, chicken. I'm sorry your life was so horrible. Not that, I always try to get pasture raised animals, blah blah blah. But yeah,
we'll make sure we put that in the episode.
Yeah, make sure the kids know that. Oh, I get canceled.
Like those damn Felice brothers, man. They murderous
torture
bastards.
Chicken. They just love eating tortured chickens. That's all they eat.
Yeah. All right. So I have a couple of aspirations that I need you to fulfill for me when you get back on the road. All right. So this is the personal part of the podcast. I'm so looking forward to being either in a crowded room of people while you're playing, or maybe even better for this one, like in a field at a festival. I need to hear thousands of people singing along to Inferno and shouting out the words Jean-Claude Van Damme.
That
it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Holy shit. I haven't even let myself think about that part of it, like the crowd part of music, because it's been so sad and so we've been so bereft of that. Oh yeah, imagine that, a bunch of people singing Jean-Claude Van Damme. Oh, it's gonna be sick. Who's that running?
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we'll let them do that part. That's a great idea. All right, you got it. What else?
That's gonna be a trip. So this one might have to do with I didn't look closely at the songwriting credits, so I'm sorry, but this one might have to do with finally getting you that house. And this is I think we need to figure out a way for Springsteen to cover Frankie's Gun.
That would be, if you know the guy, put in a good word.
I lost my contacts in my phone last time I tried to sync it with the cloud, and so I don't know how I'm ever going to get back
Bruce's
in touch.
Number.
I can hear it though.
I would love if anybody covered it. Yeah, I think so. I think that would be a hit for somebody. I think they should do it. I remember when the dude from Hootie and the Blowfish covered that Old Crow Medicine Show song. It was a hit. I think they made tons of money. I would love to make tons of money. I think that would be so wonderful. And
I think it would be just. I don't know you very well, but I feel like it would be okay.
I would use it for good. I would buy myself a humble home in this very, very expensive town. I would spend tons of money on local pasture-raised chickens. Don't worry, the money will not. I won't do anything bad. I swear to God.
Let's go, Bruce. We'll put that in the episode,
Mr. Springsteen.
Do the right
royalties
thing,
will go to the beautiful causes in my life.
So you talked about John Prine. Who were some of your other guys, or your people? Who are the artists that either on your way up or what do you do now to where do you go musically?
Well, right now these are probably one is Joanna Newsom. Yeah. I have become completely obsessed over the last couple of years with her music in a way that's kind of scaring me. I take a little break, but her last record, Divers, I've listened to it dozens and dozens of times, and I think she's just so talented and awesome. It sort of hurts my feelings. And I recently started listening to this songwriter named Haley Hendricks, who I think is from your neck. I think she's from Portland, Oregon. Have you ever heard of her?
No,
Haley
I don't know.
Hendricks. She's such a beautiful songwriter. She has a record called The Bug Collector. So maybe we're just sort of on the same page.
You just want the music video directing gig.
Yeah. Haley, if you're out there. I got lots of footage. Anyway, I think her music is so beautiful and otherworldly, and so that's what I've been listening to lately. I love strange music that sort of transports me into a different place. I think that's really cool, and she does it with just basically a guitar and her voice and her lyrics, and then Joanna Newsom does it with, I don't know, she's some strange magical talent that I can't comprehend. But yeah.
Is there is it? Beyond those two, do you have an affinity for for it? Like, do you like the female voice, or is it just those are two that came to your mind? Like, is there a theme there that you listen to female singer songwriters?
Interesting. I don't care.
Gotcha.
I think I'm as long as the music's good, I don't care who you are. I mean, yeah, of course I love the female voice, and I love Haley's voice is particularly haunting. And I don't know if like a man could do it. I'm not sure. Maybe not. Maybe it is important that the voice comes from a woman for Joanna, and like I can't like imagine me singing a Joanna Newsom song. That wouldn't work. But I do. I mean, I love a beautiful voice, especially a strange one.
Yeah, I get that. Is there anything that you listen to that fans of your music would be surprised to hear is in your musical stew?
I'm definitely Joanna Newsom. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to listen to a lot of different things. Trying to think. The last few weeks I've been not really, I don't know why I've been listening to so much music lately. I mean, I've been listening to a book on tape that a Jeff Tweedy book, How to Write One Song.
I read that at the beginning of the year. I found that book incredibly inspiring. First of all, his tone is so conversational, but like you could apply that to any aspect of your creative life.
And writing songs, luckily for me.
Yeah.
I love that book so much. I just finished it, and I like listen to audiobooks. I don't know why. I can read, I promise, but I like to listen to them. So inspiring. He reads it, and his voice is so beautiful, and his book makes me laugh. It inspires me. It's such a generous, sweet, encouraging tone. I'm like so happy and grateful that he wrote that. But that does not answer your question. I mean, we really love classical music. Like we just get down like Schumann or Schubert or Beethoven, Franz Liszt. Like we just love that shit. So we listen to that all day long. Or like Philip Glass. I love that kind of stuff. Like that sort of modern Arvo Part.
That doesn't surprise me, given some of like the ambient textures and just the atmospherics in your music. So I could, that's okay. I get it.
Okay, good. I mean, we also love Neil Young, obviously.
Yeah. Where you are up there, are you able to like, do you have a scenario where like you could take the speakers, put them in the windows and like blast out into the universe? Or like, are you in a neighborhood? Like, how does it, like, can you get down?
I cannot I'm in like a little neighborhood. I'm renting like a little apartment in this neighborhood. So no, I don't think the neighbors would appreciate that at all. There's actually like a school across the street for like elementary kids. Maybe they would dig it actually. Where Ian is, he definitely could do that. He's kind of lives out in the middle of nowhere. But no, we haven't done any performing of any kind we don't even do like live streams. I know a lot of people did that. Ian doesn't have Wi-Fi. So that was actually pretty easy to say no, and you can't. It's actually kind of liberating. Doesn't work
that. It's like performance art. There's a band playing somewhere right now, but you just get a blank screen.
Exactly. That's what we should have done. The performance part of my life, something I enjoyed so much, has been totally absent for whatever it's been, 18 months, year and a half. I want to get back into it. Hopefully. I don't know what the hell is happening with Delta variant. It's starting to scare me, to tell you the truth, in terms of what it means for a crowded room, which is what we need. Without the crowded room, we can't do our job. So that's what we got to wait for. That's what we need.
Yeah. So I see your first gigs, at least that I could tell from your website, are mid-September.
Yeah, mid-September we're playing the city, in New York City, and up here a couple shows, and then we're heading out west. We're gonna be in Seattle and Portland and LA, etc. in late September, early October. So I hope so.
Yeah. The first date on your website's my hometown, Hamden, Connecticut.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Hamden, Connecticut. I love Hamden, Connecticut. I don't know it so well. I shouldn't say I love it. I've been there a bunch of times, if that's anything.
I'll tell you, if you have I don't know how your routine works, but if you get there a day early, or if you have some time in the afternoon, there's a great park there called Sleeping Giant.
Okay.
Packed with Native American mythology. The sleeping giant fell down and went to sleep, and he's not, so if you're in Hamden, the horizon looks like a sleeping giant. You can see his head and his body and his feet, but it's a great little park. It's cool. Some good hiking.
Awesome. Yeah, we don't have like a tour routine anymore. We got to rebuild it. So I would like to do more sightseeing and going to more parks and just local attractions. So yeah, Sleeping Giant. We'll try to go there if we can, for sure.
So how do you fire it back up? Like, will you guys like is there a concept of like tour rehearsals? Do you woodshed for 10 days, or like how does that work?
We're gonna rehearse for sure. I promise, audience. We're gonna rehearse before we play. It's only gonna be a few days, probably like three days of rehearsals, and then we're playing Hamden, which hopefully won't inflict too much pain on them. That'll be our warm-up show, but it'll be fun. And then, yeah, that's it. We've been doing this for so long that I think that we can get the engine going really quick. I mean, I haven't stopped playing music for myself this whole time, so I still remember how to play chords and stuff and how to sing. It's just about getting the band feeling good. But, we played together those 4 days last year, and we just clicked right away. I was so surprised. I was really skeptical that we could get anything out of 4 days because without ever like practicing or doing anything for months, but we did. And so the musicians, our drummer and our bass player, Will and Jess respectively, are incredible musicians. They're just badasses. So I just have to like sit back and try to play all the right chords.
It all sounds very professional. That you just, everybody falls into place like that. There's a high level of competency there.
It wasn't always that way. I'm actually surprised how much funner music is the better you get at it. Just how much and the better musicians you're around are. It's just so much friction at the beginning of the band because we all suck so bad. And we could make cool music, but boy, it was just so hard. And now it's not hard. It's a different kind of challenge, which is, you can sort of challenge yourself in different ways, but it's just so much funner for me.
That's great.
I think.
All right. A couple other things before I let you go. A lot of your catalog, and I've heard you guys talk about it in other contexts, is self-released. What does self-released mean for you? Like, do you work with distributors? Are you just selling stuff direct to your fans on your website and at your shows? Like, that's sort of part one of my question is like, define self-released. And then, does that mean that you guys have to be more, are you more business people than you otherwise would want to be? Or is it important to you to keep your fingers like how, like what's the business side of what you do and who cares about that between the two of you?
It's a good question. The self-release thing, we haven't self-released a record in a few years, but when we did it, when we've done a few, we just put it on a CD. And that was what you kind of did. This is before streaming, really. And it was a great way to make some scratch. We would, we would mail them to people and then we would sell them at shows, print up like whatever, 1,000 of them. That was it. And then we ran out of CDs and that was the end of that. Last year when the pandemic started and we were like, we're poor now. We put up a couple of our songs on Bandcamp or a couple of records on Bandcamp and that generated income. And now I think they're on Spotify just cause, gotta get those streams. So that's what
loot.
Oh yeah. It's 0.003 cents a stream. Don't doubt it. As for the money and the business part, yeah, meaning we don't have a manager. We haven't for a few years. So yeah, we do it all ourselves. We are, two halves don't necessarily make a whole. Neither of us are good at it at all. We force ourselves to care about it because we need to make a living. We're not good businessmen. We're awful self-promoters. Just the worst at it. Just terrible. So that's like our biggest downfall is we just don't know how to convince people to take us seriously or to like us. We just do what we do and hope it works, which it sort of does most of the time.
The jury's out.
Jury's out on that. It's been 15 years and still the jury is still out. Got a hung jury on whether or not we know what we're doing or we're doing the right thing. Yeah, I see other musicians, like great musicians who are great at like Instagram or TikTok, I guess, which is like the sort of the new language of how to become popular and how to self-promote. And we're dog shit at that too. Ian just got an Instagram for the first time in his life a couple months ago, and I just put bugs on mine. And then we have a band one, but we're just not good at it. So we're trying. We're really doing our best because we want you to listen to the music, people, and we want people to come to the shows. But just know that if we don't post on our Instagram, it's just because we don't want to, but we still love you.
That's good. I mean, I can't imagine that Instagram goes. It's got to be hard to use Instagram without Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it does. That's why I never uses it.
It's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. I have the keys to the band account, and I try to do stuff on it. It's weird. It's such a weird feeling, like putting your face on the internet, or we're not good at it. Yeah, we're working on it, slowly but surely. Probably, hopefully by the time we're in our mid-40s, we'll have this thing figured out. So
yeah, it's strange how the job requirements of rock and roll have changed. It's like now you have to be a media company.
You have to self-promote, and you have to sort of be creative with it, and like have your own voice. You have to have your own voice. You have to have a personality, right? Which I think I have a personality. I think I do. But then you have to figure out a way to take that personality and put it on the internet so that people can see it and enjoy it in like these sort of bite-sized little snacks, which will encourage them, which will make them like you, and which will make them listen to your music. But it's the translating your personality to the internet that I don't know how to do that. How do you do that? How do you do that?
You be you, man. You be you.
But what if you is not taking pictures of yourself and putting it on the internet? That's the problem.
All right. Tell me about the new record. It's coming out also around the same time you get back on the road.
Yeah, it's coming out the 16th or 17th, whatever that Friday is.
In
17th.
September.
Yeah, September 17th. It's coming out, streaming. We're going to have vinyl and CDs too, believe it or not. And then we're hitting the road, like this sort of like, old-timey tour cycle stuff. Put out a record, go on the road.
Nice.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Nice. Let me ask you this. Where in the lineage of I hope this is a hack question, man, so I'm just going to qualify it, but where in the lineage of great brother musical duos do you guys fit? Are you like the Davies brothers, or are you the Van Halens? Are you
more like the Jonas Brothers, but cuter?
Oh, great.
Yeah. Pretty cool if we're like the Van Halens, actually. We are kind of like the Van Halens.
You didn't really hear any guff between the Van Halens. They're certainly not like, the Black Crowes guys.
Those guys were brothers, right? Or who's it? Oasis. Everybody's always talking about how Oasis, they were brothers, and now they don't even talk to each other. No, me and Ian, we get along great. There's no drama. We're just not like dramatic. Sorry. We're not dramatic people. We can't generate animosity or angst. We don't have the ability to do that. So we just get along good. And I just try to stay out of his way, and he tries to stay out of mine. And we work well together like that. I think we found our vibe, and neither of us are like co-heads or narcissists, or we don't have severe personality deficiencies. I don't think. A bunch of minor ones for sure, but I think we're doing all right.
Yeah. Well, I'll quietly judge that.
Yeah. Of course.
All right. Well, listen,
not to brag.
It's really great to talk to you. Thank you for making time.
Likewise. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, and good luck with the record and getting everything back on the road, and combating the Delta variant, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. I
think we're going to be all right. Just hope and pray that get this thing under control so we can get back out there. And thank you so much. Maybe we'll see you at the Seattle show.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope so. When I might reach out to you, and then maybe we could grab a bite or grab some coffee, or somehow make you feel welcome in Seattle.
100%. I'll put you on the guest list.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Be well.
He drove in a doomed Corvette.
Thank you so much, James Felice. Thank you, Aunt Taylor and the team at Light. And as always, thank you for listening to Spotlight On. Get and share all of our past episodes, write a review, and even send us a message through our website, spotlightonpodcast.com. Join us again next week, and in the meantime, be safe and stay in touch.
Tornado with human eyes.